Thank you, Green Party US, for inviting me to address your 2020 presidential nominating convention. As a candidate for the US Senate in a historic ranked choice voting race, competing for the seat held by Susan Collins for the last 24 years, I'm honored to be here speaking to you all. I stand on land stolen from the Wabanaki people, what is now called Maine, in the Penobscot Nation's watershed, regretting that my European ancestors did not heed the wisdom of the indigenous elders who'd been living sustainably here for at least 12,000 years. Had we listened and learned rather than seeking to dominate and colonize, human beings would almost surely not be faced with the climate catastrophe now threatening the security of all life on our planet. My European ancestors did many regrettable things. I've been thinking a lot about family lately. As a Green Party candidate, I've pledged to neither accept nor solicit donations from corporate lobbyists, corporate executives, or the super PACs that launder corporate money for candidates. This led our Lisa for Maine Communications Director Dave Schwab to comment that while our opponents are supported by big money, Lisa is supported by big family. My grown children have all contributed to our campaign in significant ways, as have my sisters and many members of our extended family. My eldest said to his siblings this summer, "Ask not what mom can do for you, ask instead what you can do for mom's campaign." But it's our Green family I've come to talk to you about today. With your support, encouragement, expertise, and yes, donations, we have reached a place I never imagined we would be, standing on the brink of electing the first Green to the US Senate. If John Rensenbrink and others had not founded the Maine Green Independent Party, I would not be standing here. If he and other Greens experienced at electoral politics had not supported and advised me, I would not be on the ballot. I needed their moral support to make the difficult decision to seek ballot access as an independent due to Maine's punitive signature requirements designed to keep third parties off the ballot. And if Green Party members had not worked diligently for years to establish ranked choice voting, I would not dare to dream of victory at the polls in November. But I'm here to tell you that ranked choice voting changes the game. It really does allow for a new politics of ideas and positive campaigning. Truly, this could be the start of something revolutionary as ranked choice voting spreads across the nation. With this race here in Maine, we have the opportunity to show what ranked choice voting can do. I believe that my name on the ballot greatly increases the chances of unseating the most unpopular senator in the nation, a woman who betrayed Maine's proud tradition of independent thought by siding with an unqualified Supreme Court nominee and refusing to investigate the credible claim of sexual assault against him. Her list of offenses is a long one: supporting a racist candidate for Attorney General of the United States, sponsoring the legislation that shredded the financial stability of the U.S. Postal Service, supporting a tax bill that robbed from the poor to give to the already wealthy, and failing to convict an impeached president using his official office for political gain. People of Maine have not forgotten any of this, and that's why I know we have a real chance to win an election against Susan Collins and most likely an establishment centrist Democrat who does not support Medicare for all, defunding police, or a demilitarized Green New Deal. Maine has a proud history of electing independents outside the corporate two-party system, and now we find ourselves free of plurality victories and the so-called spoiler effect. With ranked choice voting, we're in it to win it. And the state of our nation and our planet demands that we win. The abdication of responsibility shown by our current corporatized government absolutely demands it. An unprecedented but predictable health crisis has laid bare the structural inequality of our wretched for-profit healthcare system. It is a racist system based on white supremacy, which lies at the root of nearly all our structural problems. Black, Indigenous, and people of color have suffered disproportionate infection rates from COVID-19 as they are more likely to work in jobs that could only be done in person. They have suffered disproportionate death rates as their underlying conditions resulting from poverty and unaffordable health care doomed them. What more stark evidence do we need to demonstrate that the Green Party's long-standing demand for expanded Medicare for all, universal single-payer health care for all residents in the U.S. is well past due? Weak, vacuous, and immoral leadership at the national level has misguided us through a pandemic even now still accelerating. A national healthcare system could have planned for a crisis like this. It could have stockpiled the PPE for healthcare workers and been at the ready to develop testing for everyone so as to contain and control the disease, as we've seen other nations successfully do. Instead, we saw rampant profiteering and states forced to compete with one another for scarce supplies and equipment. Budgets are moral documents. The U.S. spends nearly 70% of its discretionary budget each year on the military and drops a bomb on average on another country every 12 minutes. Meanwhile, as a teacher, I was asked to do more with less every year. Police departments nationwide have ample supplies of tear gas and rubber bullets and send officers to Israel for training in the tactics of a violent occupation force that continuously abuses Palestinians, with U.S. taxpayer support. These are not my budget priorities. Are they yours? It is thrilling that here we are in the summer of a great and sustained uprising of people in the U.S. demanding that we defund police and finally grapple with the deep inequities built into our white supremacist justice system. Rage is an appropriate response to our abysmal lack of progress. A government owned and operated by corporations can never achieve justice or put forth a budget grounded in the values of caring for people rather than dominating and killing them. Green family, I stand with you today to say enough. We will no longer tolerate and support the values of patriarchy, class hierarchies, racial discrimination, ableist discrimination, or cis discrimination. We are the party that holds a real, living, breathing vision that another and better world is not only possible, it is essential if we as a species are to survive. The most compelling security threat of the 21st century may be hard to see at times through the clouds of tear gas, but it's still climate crisis. We must meet it with our greatest minds and make it the priority of our budgets at every level of government. Yes, the Pentagon is the biggest polluting organization on the planet, and it must be defunded. But so too must we change every choice our society makes. The false energy needs of capitalism's insatiable need for expansion to line the pockets of the ultra-wealthy must be challenged. But thanks to the Greens and the youth in our streets, and yes, ranked choice voting, I have real hope for our future. Think of how much intelligence and creativity will be unleashed when we break down the system that impoverishes schools serving Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. Think of how the factories that now build weapons could build clean energy systems seemingly overnight with conversion using federal funds under a Green New Deal, and how that would create millions of additional good union jobs. We see the corporate parties squabble and cling to the past with all their might, because they know a better future is at hand, a future that is more equitable, sustainable, and moral, a future that values people, planet, and peace. Now is our opportunity. We lead together.